Folks, you know the old saying though, you can't spell ignorant without IGN. Tell me something, folks, why does IGN is comparing Crimson Desert to Cyberpunk? I'm not joking. Come, let me show you what I mean. This is from Klutzy King, okay? And I want you to tell me, was Crimson Desert... here's the question. Do you think IGN was wrong when they compared Crimson Desert to Cyberpunk 2077 when they launched? Say it in the comments.
Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great because, dude, I am having an absolute blast with Crimson Desert. Does it have its flaws? Absolutely.
Yeah,
but I've already put in 35 hours, and let me tell you what, even with the flaws, this is definitely, at least for me, gonna end up being a Game of the Year contender. Unless some of the most mind-blowing games come out later this year. I think I still put RE9 above it, but I'm not sure. It's between RE9 and Crimson Desert right now, we'll have to see. But you know who doesn't like Crimson Desert too much? IGN. Of course, who else would it be? IGN gave the game a 6 out of 10, but we're actually not going to be talking about their review today. We're going to be talking about this very strange article that they posted recently, a few days after one of the game's big patches came out that addressed a lot of criticism. And I mean, you could read all the quality of life stuff alone that they fixed. This is nowhere near close to the full patch notes, but this was the most important stuff to address in my opinion, mainly bigger inventory space, more fast travel points, changes to private storage to make it so you could actually put items in it instead of only take them out. It takes less time to gain knowledge on something when you're reading it. Boss nerfs, among a whole lot of other quality of life stuff. And I mean, you could say that a lot of this stuff should have been there, but the fact that they got all of this out in 3 days shows that they actually care. They're listening to feedback. They wasted no time. They probably thought that what was there was good, and then when players told them it wasn't, they fixed it extremely quickly, and honestly, I think that's really all you can ask for. Now, in response to this patch, IGN posted an article a few days later asking, can Crimson Desert patch its way to a Cyberpunk 2077 style victory? Which immediately, the Cyberpunk comparison is absolutely ridiculous. Because yes, Crimson Desert had problems on launch that were quickly addressed, but they were nowhere near the problems that Cyberpunk had. Cyberpunk was an unplayable mess that had to be taken off the PlayStation Store to get refunded because it was so broken. And there were multiple class action lawsuits against Cyberpunk because of how unfinished the game was and because of how there was just so much stuff that wasn't there that they promised would be there.
Remember, I'm currently installing Crimson Desert on my PS5. It's taking a while. It takes about an hour. Not gonna touch on that, okay? Once I start, I'm probably gonna put the gameplay footage in my first channel. Tell me something, folks, to any of you who have bought Cyberpunk during its launch. Tell me something, was it worse than Crimson Desert? I'm Asian, okay? You wanna know what Asians will always do? Whatever mistakes they made, they will always correct it, okay? Seriously, 3 days. It took them 3 days to address the problem. Unlike in the West, which I'm probably certain most indie devs, they will always address it, but AAA, the best bet you get when it comes to performance or anything, they will always address, a week, maybe 2. You remember Borderlands 4? How do you think that game was a mess when it came on all platforms?
Crimson Desert's biggest offenses are that there were some quality of life issues that got patched within a few days, and the story is pretty bad. This is nowhere near a Cyberpunk level event. Even if you don't like the game, I think we can all agree that Crimson Desert launched in an infinitely better shape than Cyberpunk. Now, obviously, like the subheading for the article said, there are certain things that can't be fixed, specifically the story. But as far as I'm aware, this game was never sold on its story. The devs didn't really spend much time talking about it. It was more so focused on the actual world itself. Now, that being said, if people want to make fun of the story and how bad it is, then by all means, go for it. I'm just saying I can kind of forgive it, and it definitely doesn't ruin the game for me. Not to mention the CEO of Pearl Abyss himself came out and admitted, yeah, we could have done better on that. Being able to admit your faults nowadays, especially as the CEO of a very successful game, is not easy. But god damn it, I wish it was more common. Anyway, I wanted to take a look at this IGN article because it's something.
Oh, before I let Klutz continue, okay? Remember one thing, we are Asians, okay? Now, for the record, for some of you, you may like the combat of Crimson Desert. Some of you may like the story. I think what many developers in Asia, what they do is simple. They should just make good games. That's all that matters. So for the story, I'm gonna have to experience it. And also I wanted to see, why does people keep struggling? Do you think I can beat DSP when he struggles?
This. Love it or hate it, there's no denying that Crimson Desert has suffered something of a rocky launch. Okay, stop immediately. A rocky launch?
No. First, it's not a rocky launch. The problem is when they say the game's stock market dropped 30% because the critics. Listen, to all Asian developers, listen, I understand you want to invest in your stock market, but you have to understand one thing. You cannot rely on critics. Gamers are the one that purchase your product, not journalists, okay? I don't know, folks. These journalists, they keep on doing this. Seriously, it's a good game, which I'm probably certain many people, I think Klutz did say that this is a Game of the Year contender. What do you think? Do you think this is a good contender? Can they compete with, say, Resident Evil Requiem or many other games? Say it in the comments.
It's sold almost 5 million copies, and its biggest issues were ironed out in days. Sure, the game wasn't universally praised, but when we're comparing the game to Cyberpunk in the title, and then starting off by saying it had a rocky launch, no, I disagree with that. Unless, of course, you're talking about the fact that because outlets like you gave the game a 6 out of 10, Pearl Abyss's stock price tanked. Not because of actual sales or player reception or anything, but just because some video game outlets said the game wasn't great. And they still have not fully recovered from that. Like, why do these gaming outlets that do not speak for the players in almost all situations have so much control in stuff like this?
Also, how the hell these people keeps getting away with it? No jelly folk. These outlets continue to do moronic things. Like, for example, Rebecca Valentine, she still hasn't admitted that she made an article due to mistranslation. She hasn't admitted it.
Imagine your company's stock tanks by 30% because an out-of-touch news outlet gave the game a 6 out of 10 before the players even got their hands on it. Anyway, let's continue. Its vast open world, full of opportunity and flexible inventive systems, is impressive, but its awkward controls, punishing difficulty spikes, and baffling approach to inventory management burst the bubble of immense hype that had been built over the years, resulting in mixed Steam reviews and an equally mixed critical reception. But there's also no denying developer Pearl Abyss's extensive initial patchwork that we've seen this generation within days of launch. It's unclear if the development team has had to break their backs to do this, but their work has already paid dividends. User reviews on Steam have shifted into very positive, and the company's stock price, which plummeted in the wake of uneven critic scores, has begun to bounce back. Yeah, you know, critic scores like yours, and yes, I'm aware the guy writing this article isn't the same one who reviewed it, but still, I think the wording is just funny there. Oh yeah, you know, there were some critic scores that didn't like the game too much, and that made the stock price tank. I wonder who could have done that. So, a bit of a, well, I guess you could say a rocky start to this article. The first sentence was already very off-putting, but then, you know, they go on to say, oh, they've been working hard on it, they've been fixing it, so maybe it's not so bad. Let's go to the next paragraph and see if that continues. All of this in under a week. It's the sort of thing that suggests that Pearl Abyss didn't just chuck Crimson Desert into the world unfinished with the intent of using players as beta testers for some kind of stealth early access launch. Nobody scrambles this hard unless it's an emergency. Assuming that's true, it would also mean that Pearl Abyss didn't see the glaring issues in Crimson Desert's design, be that a result of poor internal testing, naive designers, or simply not seeing the wood for the trees. Now it has an army of testers 3 million strong. Many issues can be identified and fixed, but can everything be fixed? Are these initial successful patches groundwork for a comeback story akin to Cyberpunk 2077? I'm not so sure, because Crimson Desert suffers from much deeper issues that only extensive genetic modification, not bandages, can fix. Saying that this might be a result of naive designers is crazy. That's like an insult to the developers. Oh, well, you had to patch this because it wasn't perfect on launch, and people gave you feedback and you listened, you must be a naive developer.
Yet you wonder why these Western developers continue to, I don't know, look down upon Asian developers, and when Asian developers get successful and the West gets, I don't know, layoff, they get a surprise Pikachu face. There was one time where Western developers tried to downplay, or in this case, look down upon the Asians developers, mainly Japanese. You need to get better. But when they see the Asians doing better and success, they get a surprise Pikachu face. When the West failed, yes, there are some Western are doing good, like say Battlefield 6, or maybe better yet, the indie space, they're doing good. But the Western AAA, they need to step it up.
Again, the comparison to Cyberpunk. You know what? I'm just gonna say it right now. This game is not going to have a Cyberpunk level comeback, because it doesn't need one. Cyberpunk
Correct.
was rock bottom. The game didn't even function for the most part when it came out, and inherent core gameplay mechanics like the armor system had to be completely redesigned in a 2.0 update. Crimson Desert doesn't need a massive 2.0 overhaul, it just needed some quality of life improvements, which it got. And
I'm so glad I wasn't there, okay? No, generally, I did not know about their rocky launch. I'm so glad I wasn't there. What's the past is the past. I think IGN, they really need to hire a better reviewer, okay? In my opinion, sometimes you wonder, why does they pick a reviewer who, I don't know, likes cozy games, but they give it a RPG? I mean, do you remember Dean Takahashi? He couldn't even get past the tutorial of Cuphead. Yes, for Crimson Desert, it started off not very good, but eventually, and I do mean eventually, they managed to come back and the stock price was recovered. More than 30%.
that's not to say patches can't do any heavy lifting. Crimson Desert's recent patch notes are a long list of small changes that make a significant difference. In fact, they've already proven genuinely transformative. The addition of more fast travel points has meaningfully altered how you explore the world. Previously, the land of Pywell felt caught between two visions. Locations had to be traveled to manually in real time, which suggested an approach similar to Dragon's Dogma or GTA, games in which the journey is a key part of the experience, and any kind of teleportation is achieved through in-world methods like hailing a taxi. But there was also a scattering of oddly placed fast travel points, which pointed to something more like Elden Ring, in which warping between discovered locations is a part of the world's fundamental fabric. The newly added fast travel points, particularly the ones in your base camp and Hernan's Castle, Crown City, bring the play space more in line with typical open world convention, allowing you to skip mundane trips to and from repeatedly visited locations. Okay, so this is all great, right? But again, I must ask, in what way is this remotely similar to Cyberpunk?
Okay, before we see that, look how they word it. Listen, I think these journalists, they knew they're gonna get backlash from gamers. That's the reason why they write like this. And yet you wonder why many journalists are getting laid off left, right, and center. Developers should have known that the journalists, they are no longer relevant. Gamers are the one that gives them the money, not journalists. Yet developers still uses it.
Mind you that this was Cyberpunk at launch. Nothing you have described in this article or ever will describe in this article is remotely close to a launch Cyberpunk situation. This entire paragraph was dedicated to a complaint about not enough fast travel points. And somehow you're trying to equate this to launch Cyberpunk. By the way, I will have the original video linked in the description. The Cyberpunk video that I was showing is just a compilation of a bunch of bugs from the original release of the game compiled together in a trailer style format. It's pretty good. All right, anyway, on to the next paragraph. That new base camp fast travel point links to the next small but big change, a storage box. It's somewhat unbelievable that a game so reliant on grinding crafting materials didn't have one in the first place, but there's now a chest at your camp that you can dump all your surplus ore, timber, and butchered animals into, rather than constantly carrying them on your person. Your personal inventory fills up incredibly quickly, even after you've significantly expanded it, so being able to... Why are we honking while I'm recording? Why?
Well, Klutz, you can just use it as a theme, just like I did. I don't know, Klutz, when I was recording just before this, there was some fireworks happening on the background. You wanna know what I do? I just keep it as a theme, because we're celebrating.
Why? You should know this is mandated my recording time. You can't honk while I'm doing that. Anyway, your personal inventory fills up incredibly quickly even after you've significantly expanded it, so being able to warp back to camp, drop stuff off, and then get back on your adventure without a ton of walking involved is a significant upgrade to your quality of life. Okay, yes, that is a significant upgrade, but I have to ask two things. One, again, how is this anywhere near as bad as launch Cyberpunk? But two, why did you put quality of life in quotation marks? As if you were being sarcastic about it or something. Like, yes, being able to store your items so that you don't have to sell them or use them or get rid of them immediately when you need more space is a very nice quality of life thing. Anyway, before we get into the last paragraph,
sometimes you wonder, these journalists, when people say, what does that have anything to do with Cyberpunk or whatever it is? Look at that, the quality of life in quotation mark. Can't see it, but they put it in quotation mark, the quality of life. Who still trusts journalists these days? mainly video game journalists.
Get back on your adventure without a ton of walking involved is a significant upgrade to your quality of life. Okay, yes, that is a significant upgrade, but I have to ask two things. One, again, how is this anywhere near as bad as launch Cyberpunk? But two, why did you put quality of life in quotation marks? As if you were being sarcastic about it or something. Like, yes, being able to store your items so that you don't have to sell them or use them or get rid of them immediately when you need more space is a very nice quality of life thing. Anyway, before we get into the last paragraph, I just want to take a look at the heading for this last section. If you already like Crimson Desert's approach, I think there's a genuine possibility that it could be a contender for your Game of the Year by the summer. Assuming that it's not already my personal contender for Game of the Year, or one of them. Like I said, it's right up there with RE9 for me. I don't know why IGN is so intent on acting like this is some hugely disastrous launch. And now they're saying, oh, well, you know, if all this gets fixed up and it has a Cyberpunk level comeback, then maybe in a few months it could be your Game of the Year. These are nowhere near the same situation. How many times do I have to say that? You know what? This seems like a great time to do some engagement farming. Let me know in the comments if Crimson Desert is one of your Game of the Year picks so far.
What do you think? Is it the Game of the Year? Now, here's the real problem when it comes to the Game of the Year. The voting. 90% goes to journalists and critics, and 10% goes to gamers. Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers one of the Eastern games win. Or maybe indie, but we'll have to wait and see.
I know it's very early, but do you think it'll remain a pick for you? Or is it just not really your thing and you think it's okay? Anyway, we're gonna skip the next paragraph just because it's not anything really worth talking about. And we're gonna end on this one. The total result of all of these small tweaks is that Crimson Desert now has more momentum. You get into the good stuff faster, and with a substantial change like that delivered in just a few days, it's understandable if the idea of Crimson Desert seeing something of a Cyberpunk-style reappraisal within a matter of a few weeks has crossed your mind. If you already like Crimson Desert's unique, friction-heavy approach and have been pushing through the flaws, I think there's a genuine possibility that it could be a contender for your Game of the Year by the summer, if it isn't already. But if you're more like me, who is intrigued by Crimson Desert but has struggled to connect with it, then I think the outlook is gloomier, because there are things patches can't fix. Things like writing, story, structure, and quest design. I will say, I do kind of agree with that. Like,
yeah,
if
maybe.
you didn't like Crimson Desert pre-patch, then you're not gonna like it now necessarily, unless your biggest issues came down to like the storage system. Like, if your complaint was the story, then yeah, of course you're still not gonna like it now. Crimson Desert seems to be going for the approach of, okay, we've got the people who like our game, now we're gonna take their feedback and improve the things that they want, because ultimately Crimson Desert doesn't need an overhaul, it just needs fixes, and it sure as hell doesn't need a Cyberpunk level comeback. I think the fact that the game's reputation is pretty positive just a week in, and there haven't been mass refunds and class action lawsuits, kind of proves that, yeah, maybe these aren't exactly the same situation, but it's like what everybody keeps saying, you can't spell ignorant without IGN.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys.
First off, shout out to Klutzy King. You can't spell ignorant without IGN. And so far, I'm gonna be testing it. I'm playing it. You know what? Play test, I would say, since Reforged like to throw that around when he says the word test. And tell me, folks, when you see that gameplay footage that I'm gonna be showing you, do you think I'm better than either Reforged or DSP when playing Crimson Desert? And yes, if you see me die a lot, yes, I suck at the game in Crimson Desert. Thank you for noticing. But hey, you know what they say? Get good. Oi, this is cheating. I'll just fight their ass.
I'll send all of you to the grave! You should have run away. Is that the best you've got? Where were your tails tucked? Just like last time.
Okay, focus on the archers. Focus on these idiots.
Send all of you to your graves!
Focusing on these archers. So what do you think? Could this Crimson Desert be Game of the Year contender? Again, folks, I think IGN they really need to stop. In my opinion, if video game journalists continue to do this stupid thing, they're gonna get a surprise Pikachu face when they get laid off, which I'm 100% certain the same person that reviewed Crimson Desert has blocked everybody, or in this case, privated their account, 100%. Yet you wonder why many gamers don't look at these game journalists seriously anymore. I'm going to be playing it regardless of my platform. I'll play it on my PS5 and then the PC. Wish me luck. If you have any tips for Crimson Desert, let me know in the comments, okay? Because, again, if this is like a Souls genre or anything, I'm still new to that, okay? Still new to it.
Allied infantry always welcomed the sight of a Sherman tank. Its combination of speed, firepower, and quick repair made it an invaluable ground weapon. The sheer number of Shermans in the field usually allowed Allied generals to count on armored superiority. However, not all the Sherman tank specs were ideal. It was thinly armored and caught fire easily. In addition, its cannon was not large enough to pierce the more heavily armored enemy tanks, a weakness not shared by the German Tiger. Fortunately, evolving teamwork between ground spotters, artillery, and the Army Air Force meant no Tiger was impenetrable, thus helping the Shermans rule the day.